Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, and joining me tonight is Joe. And back from some little bit of illness last week, Jason with his brand new and I believe first ever Obvious shirt.
Yes, sir. First ever Obvious shirt. I'd rather be at the bank, Red October. I'd rather be at the bank except for these last few series and tonight because the Phils have been playing like absolute ass. But you know, it's a rough stretch, which, I mean, this is their hardest stretch of the season. So just try and maintain whatever they can. And, you know, hopefully they'll bounce back out of it.
And speaking of teams that have been playing like absolute ass this season, how you doing tonight, Joe?
Well, I thought he was going to talk about his own stuff there, Joe.
Thanks a lot, Dick. I'm fantastic. How can it be any better? Thanks a lot, really.
And speaking of teams that have been playing like ass, how are you, Andrew?
Well, you know, the funny thing is that so after the Mets took the first two games of the series over the weekend and jumped us in the wild card, as usual, Mets Twitterdom blew up. The Braves are done, this and that. And ever since that happened, Atlanta is pitching through 20 straight shutout innings. The Braves split the series, are back on top. And I just love how every year when the Mets Twitter goes off, the Mets seem to fall apart. It's just a wonderful thing to look forward to in the middle of the summer. And I also have a new Obvious shirt tonight, the Losers, because fuck St. Louis. And that's also, yes, partially in how Atlanta did against St. Louis lately. But this, I know, Jason, you got this as well. We got these when Obvious shirts had their 50% off sale after the Cubbies won the series. And
they didn't just win the series, they swept the Orioles.
Yeah, they swept the Orioles. And honestly, they sent out the email saying, hey, it might be a little longer to process. We got a ton of orders. They got these things out damn quick. Absolutely no complaints from me whatsoever. The shirts are comfortable as always, and love supporting Obvious shirts. They give so much back to the community. And honestly, if they'd love to send us some love for the show, we wouldn't say no either, because God knows we talk about them enough. All right, so Jason, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm going with one of my favorites of all time. It's my absolutely my favorite summer beer, the Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy.
And it's got to be the lemon. The peach is just not even close to being as good as the lemon is. Something's off about it.
I'm not a big peach person either, but this is just perfect.
You just like peaches as they refer to the human figure, right?
Yeah.
Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've got at least 2, maybe 3 hard Mountain Dews tonight. We'll see how this goes. I've got the OG flavor because the Cubs are the same old Cubs as they were before the 2016 run. Baja Blast because it feels like the Cubs are at the beach or something. God knows what. And watermelon because I'm just damn sour about it, as you can obviously tell. So
beautiful.
Why not? Beautiful.
So for me, I went with 2 different beers from Cape May Brewing Company tonight. I love Cape May Brewing. Love the fact that I can get their stuff up here. One of them is an old favorite I've been having at the beach every year forever, the Tan Limes. And then the other one I have tonight is a new one. They made a modification to their usual orange crush in it. This is a pineapple crush in it. Ooh. Jason, give it a shot. You'll like it, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, I love going down to Cape May Brewing Company too. Just a wonderful atmosphere, live music in the back a lot of the times, and the hot dog place next door to get some grub. Yeah, highly recommend it, and very family friendly. If you're a younger family that's got kids, there's plenty of stuff there for the kids to do as well. So, all right, let's roll into it tonight, guys. So, trade deadline is upon us. And it's been a moderately active market so far, and it's been picking up throughout the day today. Here are the 3 biggest deals I had going down so far. Number 1, of course, Phillies and Angels. We'll put this one up first. Phillies picking up closer Carlos Estevez. The Angels getting back right-handed prospect George Klassen. He was the Phillies' number 5 per Baseball America's ranking. Left-hander Samuel Aldegari, who was number 7 per Baseball America's rankings. Honestly, it's a fair haul, I think. Estevez is just a rental. And I think, Jason, that's a good thing because otherwise I think Abel or Painter would have been a requirement for the deal to go through on the Angels end. But because it's a couple-month rental, I think the Phillies were able to talk him back a little bit. But honestly, I think it's a great haul for both sides because you guys definitely need some late-end bullpen help. The back end is still not super sturdy this year. It's not Kimbrel in the playoffs bad like last year, but another good arm down at the end is a very good addition to what's already a pretty solid Phillies bullpen, top to bottom. Any news on whether Estevez is going to be the full-time closer for the Phillies?
Thompson did come out late this afternoon, I saw, and said that Estevez will be getting a bulk the ninth inning work, which I think is only right. I mean, you had to go out and get somebody to close the game because Alvarado isn't cutting it right now. So I do really like this trade. The only thing that hurts is losing Klassen. Aldegari had been doing well. Klassen's having a breakout year. But again, the thing to remember here is we're talking prospects. Prospects don't always pan out. Sometimes they do. The Phils they need to be in win now mode because their window is right now. So they were able to make some deals. I know we'll talk about others later. But this deal fills a need, getting a back-end closer in the bullpen and keeps your biggest trade chips for a deadline day deal of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. And you're absolutely right, especially keeping those other high chip prospects available for Deal and Dave to take another big swing. Hasn't happened yet. Again, the deadline's tomorrow at 6 p.m. There is plenty of time for a big deal to still go down. That said, the player pool, I think, is generally smaller and weaker this year compared to some of the previous years. So we'll see if some of those bigger names that are out there still go, or if teams are like, this is just not a good enough return, we're just going to sit and hold. We've got a little under 24 hours, so a lot to see. Joe, your thoughts on the trade?
I think it's definitely a win-win for the Phils. They definitely needed the help. And Estevez has been one of the more dominant back-end guys this year. Had he not been on the Angels, I think his numbers would be significantly better. But I think it's a great deal for Philly for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Estevez's slider has been almost unhittable this year. It's been so sharp.
I did see a couple stats here where he has not given up a run since Memorial Day weekend.
Damn.
And he had retired. It was like 54 out of 58 batters that he's faced since. So he's clearly getting the job done, especially on a team that's not good. And really, I don't know if we'll be talking about this later. If we're going to be talking about, is there anything else we want our teams to do? What else we expect from our teams? But Dombrowski better not be done. I don't think he is. But if he were to say we're done, I will be severely disappointed because you will not be able to win the World Series and have a deep playoff run with just picking up Austin Hayes and Carlos Estevez.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And if he is done at this point, I will be utterly shocked because that just feels insanity to be done after just that one minor little deal. That's just not
why save your trade chips if you're not going to use them when you have a big opportunity right now.
And let's remember, the Phillies window is not super long because you've got great players, but your players are they're all starting to get to the mid-30s and a little higher. So the window is not as long as it is for some other teams. So there is no reason to not, burn some of these high prospects and get something good back. This is not going to be conservative.
The window is probably about 3 to 4 years out.
Yeah, I would think that would probably be as much as I'd be comfortable saying it is. All right. One of the other big deals that came down, Yankees and Marlins. The Yankees picking up outfielder and second baseman Jazz Chisholm Jr. Marlins picking up catcher Agustin Ramirez, infielder Jared Cerna, infielder outfielder Abraham Ramirez. Initially, we were looking at this deal thinking, could the Marlins have done a little bit better in that deal? And then I dug a little bit deeper into this. I really like the deal for the Marlins, and I think they actually got the better of the Yankees on this one. Jazz was a solid player. He never turned into the big time franchise piece they were hoping he was going to be. His line this year is not great. 249, 323, 407. He still has some good speed. I think he now becomes the number 2 or number 3 stolen base guy on the Yankees roster, which is pretty sad. Here's what I like about the Marlins, though. Ramirez, not only is he a catcher, and we all know catching depth across the league is garbage. He's already at AAA. He's got 20 homers on the season, and he could very well be up next year as their starting catcher, or could be up with, mid-season pickup if the Marlins decide they want to mess with service time and bring him up a little later. The Marlins have not had a good catcher, since JT Realmuto. Let's think about this. How long has he been with Philadelphia now? 6 years?
I don't think it's been that long.
4 to 5, maybe?
It may have been. It may be 6 years, because they got him in the trade. 2018, 2019, maybe. And then they re-signed him during the pandemic year, because I remember seeing them hitting having batting practice or whatever, and you keep hearing Harper sign him. So it may be 6 years now. I'm gonna take a look at that while you talk about other things.
Yeah, I just, a catcher this close to major league ready, putting up numbers like that at AAA. I feel like the Marlins really did a great job getting a guy that looked like he was going to be the next franchise player, kind of peter out, get a really good prospect back that's just about major league ready. Cerna, they're calling him an undersized infielder, but he has some pop. He's at high A right now. Ramirez, he's down at the Florida Complex League, but he's hitting 348. But that's the kind of thing you take a flyer on, because you never know. If they're able to hit like that, the FCL, there's a chance it might translate to, even an average, slightly below average guy down the road, or a possible trade chip in the future for them. So I got to say, I think the Marlins actually did a lot better on this deal than the Yankees did. What do you think, Joe?
Before we get to that, sorry, Joe. It is 2019 that the Phils did trade for JT Realmuto and absolutely fleeced the Marlins. Absolutely fleeced the Marlins in that deal.
So the Marlins were due for a fleecing back. Okay.
Well, they got the Phils' top pitching prospect in Sixto Sanchez, who has never amounted to anything.
Oh yeah, Sixto Sanchez, bona fide multi-year Cy Young winner, no doubt. Yeah, Phillies killed him on that one. Anyway, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is probably a win for the Marlins. It's hard to say right now. I'm surprised that you didn't mention that Jazz is now a third baseman, apparently.
I honestly, I briefly glanced at that earlier and then completely forgot about it, because it's like, wait a second, Jazz Chisholm at third base? What?
He was taking reps at third tonight and playing third tonight because apparently Gleyber Torres said, screw you, I'm not moving from second, which in a contract year is not a really smart move.
That's a bold choice, Cotton.
Yeah, really. So Jazz has not been the same since probably 2020, the year or around the year that he was on the cover of the show in 21. I mean, he hasn't really been the same player since then.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've talked. I mean, there's a Madden curse, but there might be a MLB The Show curse now too, if you think about it, because we had,
he was last year. He was like 2023.
Was he? No, wait. Oh, he was 23. Yeah. So he hasn't really been the same the last couple of years. Ohtani was the year before, and blew out his elbow, and then this year Vlad Jr. has been subpar, and he was on the cover this year.
I was about to say, listen to this. So Vlad was this year, Jazz in 23, Shohei in 22, 21 was Fernando Tatis Jr.
Yeah.
20 was El Blanco.
The last 4 years have been awful for cover athletes, for sure.
I mean, the last time you had a cover athlete not have a horrible year the next year was Harper in 19, I guess. 2020, though, it's hard to say because it's a half a season, but he did fine in 2020. And I think before that, I would say MLB The Show 17 when they went way back and picked Ken Griffey Jr. because when you're retired, it doesn't get worse.
No, certainly can't. So,
I mean,
I think this is a better deal for the Marlins than anything.
Yeah. I can't believe the Yankees were convinced to give up a top catching prospect that close to the major league level. I'm really surprised by that. So
I think that the Yankees made out fine in this deal, especially following along with the game tonight, and he hit his first home run in a Yankees uniform already tonight.
Good for him.
So I was surprised. I was a little surprised that he went to the Yankees because I was thinking, oh, outfielder, they're not going to, need the outfield glove or the outfield bat, especially knowing that Stanton was soon coming back. So I was a little surprised more so that they went for him, but I'm not surprised that they have him in the infield or the people that they gave up for him.
The flexibility is a huge plus, that's for sure. To be able to throw him in left field or to put him at second or third or DH or, move him into center field when they want to DH Judge and give him a day off in the field. I won't deny the flexibility there is huge. I'm just looking at the Yankees catching, though. You got Austin Wells, 241 with 8 home runs this year. Jose Trevino's on the IL right now, 244, 8 home runs. Carlos Narvaez, I mean, he's hitting 333, but Carlos Narvaez has not played much this year. He's only played one game. Okay, so he's pretty far down. Yeah, okay, I got it. He's like the emergency depth chart guy. It just feels odd to me that the Yankees wouldn't have given somebody else up when they clearly need catching at the major league level, and you've got a guy that close to ready to come up. I'm a little surprised. All right, and then we had finally, I've been waiting all trade deadline for this to happen. We finally had a freaking menage a trois between the Dodgers, the Cardinals, and the White Sox. The Dodgers got infielder, outfielder Tommy Edman, right-hand pitcher Michael Kopech, right-hander Oliver Gonzalez. The Cardinals got right-hander Eric Fetty, outfielder Tommy Pham. Doesn't Tommy Pham get on and off the Cardinals roster with fairly often regularity? Okay. And then a player to be named or cash later from the Dodgers. The White Sox got Miguel Vargas, infielder Gerald Perez, outfielder Alexander Albertus, and also a player to be named later or cash from the Dodgers. First of all, that's all the White Sox could get for that? For Kopech? I don't get this one.
Well, I mean, I would say that Kopech has been kind of up and down. The last couple of years, it's been uncertain as to what his role is because he's been in the bullpen. It's kind of like he's got both dimensions to him, I think. But he's not even the best pitcher on his own team.
But with extra team control, though, I would have thought the White Sox would have been able to pull more in, especially in a 3-team trade like this where you have a bigger prospect pool to pick from.
Yeah, I mean, look, the White Sox are the White Sox.
Yeah.
They can't seem to get their story straight with regards to some of the people they want to move. So to me, Kopech moving makes sense. I think the Dodgers get better just to get eliminated in the first round, but
always a good thing.
But I feel like the White Sox definitely should have gotten a little better off in this deal. Vargas is a pretty good prospect. And I think actually he he came to the Dodgers in the deal over this offseason with the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a decent guy, I think that will benefit the White Sox. The White Sox need all the help they can get at this point. So, I mean, there's nothing stopping the White Sox from losing 120 games this year, I don't think. So,
well, let's be real. The White Sox are in. We're going to chase down the Spiders territory at this point. The Cardinals made out really well. I mean, all they had to give up was Edman. They didn't
pretty
lose any
much.
prospects in this deal. The two players to be named later are both coming from the Dodgers. So I think it's a great grab for the Cardinals. The fact that all they had to do was give up Edman, and they got Tommy Pham, who we all know Tommy Pham in the regular season is what he is, but somehow turns into pseudo Ted Williams in the playoffs. So as much as it pains me to say it, the Cardinals may actually become a threat this year in the playoffs. I hope not, but you never know. It was I was surprised. And the Dodgers, good get for the Dodgers, and they really didn't give up too much in the way of big prospects for it. So the White Sox front office, it's always a question with those guys.
I'm just curious to know what the White Sox will be asking of some of their other players that they have left, because they seem to be underselling everything. So,
well, Crochet has made some crazy demands, it sounds like.
Yeah, he wants an extension
before he pitches in the playoffs.
Accepting a trade.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's he won't pitch in the playoffs unless there's an extension. So like if he goes to let's say for the sake of argument he goes to the Guardians, if the Guardians make the playoffs, he won't pitch in the playoffs unless they've given him a contract.
That's insane.
Which
considering he's stupid. Next year's arbitration, he's not a free agent until 2027. Like a team doesn't have to do anything. He's arbitration next year. But I mean, the team still has the power, even though you're going into your arbitration years and you have a little more say than you would otherwise have. They could still basically say this is the offer, and if you're not, they don't have to make you an extension at all.
Right.
You haven't been I know we're jumping ahead a little bit with this, but Crochet hasn't been consistent enough in his career to merit a big extension at this point. He's been in the bullpen or he's been hurt. This is the first time he's been starting. That's really curious. Why does he know something we don't know, that the White Sox are going to be contenders before he hits free agency? Because I don't think they will.
Probably not.
I don't get that. I really don't. All right, and then Cubbies and the Rays. This was an interesting one. Cubs got infielder Isaac Paredes, who will be moving to third base. The Rays are going to get Christopher Morel, Hunter Biggie, and Ty Johnson. Joe, what are you thinking? I mean, I know this wasn't necessarily what you were thinking when you were saying let's trade everything that's not attached to the walls, but this is an interesting one.
Yeah, look. I think that in the return from the Rays, Paredes, they're getting an all-star caliber third baseman who hits the cover off the ball in the trop. I mean, the problem with some of those hits in the trop is they don't get out at Wrigley. So they're either a double down the line, or they're against the wall, or they're an out. And it's hard to say what they would be. So, some of those long balls he has down at the trop aren't going to be home runs anywhere else. So, but defensively, I mean, look, he's going to be more solid than Morel is. Morel has all of the offensive metrics, and all of the unluckiness of the offensive metrics. But at some point, you got to produce. And as much as I love Christopher Morel and I believe in Christopher Morel, they had to make a move that's long-term benefit for them. And Paredes has 3 years of team control after this year. So, I mean, it's a win from that perspective. And you haven't had a bona fide third baseman since Bryant left. So, you needed to solidify third base, and this was a way to do that. So,
yeah, I like the deal honestly, and for both Morel and Paredes, it's kind of change of scenery is probably going to be good for both of them.
yeah, I think that that if Morel can put things together, I think this will be one of those things where you're kind of looking at it and going, who got the better of this? But you know, the pitching prospects are prospects in their capital, and you got to use it. And I think as much as people liked Hunter Biggie in Cubs land, they have a guy that they got from the Blue Jays who kind of has the same ability. So, you have to be willing to part with trade chips when you have them. Normally, teams don't win trades with the Rays, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's always a gamble trading with the Rays. We say this every year when somebody makes a trade with the Rays because I feel like the Rays do a better job scouting everybody else than anybody does in the game. But I like the trade. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's interesting because we were wondering, will the Cubs be buyers or sellers? And the answer right now, I think, is kind of buyers. Like
Flexible.
They're more like thrift shopping, if anything.
The way that Jed described their strategy, sorry to cut you off, is that they're looking at players who have team control after like 24, so 25, 26, 27. So they're looking at guys for the future, not necessarily guys for right now.
So they're kind of doing this, like they're kind of Walmarting instead of Target, I think of the teams that are really going to be going all in, they're going to be your Target purchasers, whereas the Cubs are kind of like, we want to do something and like set us up for potential future success. So let's just see what we can get, at like Walmart or Amelia's or bargain discount outlet type of thing.
It almost feels like Minnesota Vikings idea of a competitive rebuild. We're not going to bring in a bunch of big guys, but at the same time, we're not going to strip everything down and sell it off because we think we have enough that we can be moderately competitive. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Like we're not willing to commit fully one way or the other. We're going to try and straddle the middle and see what happens.
What's going to give me the bigger idea as to what their game plan is if they deal Bellinger or not. If they keep Belly, then they're thinking that they'll be able to compete still within the next year or so. If they trade Belly, then I think they're playing a longer game.
Yeah. We'll talk about Belly a little bit more later. Padres and Rays, because everybody likes trading with the Rays. Padres got right-hander Jason Adam. Rays got right-handers Dylan Lesko, outfielder Homer Bush, catcher J.D. Gonzalez. Silly me. So the Padres definitely did a great move there, shoring up the bullpen. I like this move for them. They didn't really give up a whole lot, if I recall. I'm just checking that quick. I'm just checking the none of these guys were, I think, top 30 prospects for the Padres. They're solid prospects, but nothing crazy. So the Padres might have also gotten a leg up on the Rays there as well. Any other thoughts on that? I think that was a pretty minor one. All right, moving it on. Mets and Nats, a rare inter NL East trade because you don't see them during the season very often. The Mets got outfielder Jesse Winker, who's apparently at a love fest with the Mets and their fan base forever. And then the Nats got right-hander Tyler Stewart. I was a little surprised to see Winker dealt in the division. I really thought the Nationals would not do that. Here's the thing, though. Winker at this point, he's really more of a DH than a pure outfielder anymore.
Yeah.
So, return's not going to be great. The Nats got what they were hoping for with the signing. They were hoping he was going to bounce back, do better with injuries. Stewart's not a bad prospect, 6th rounder in 22, primarily a reliever, but he's been converted to a starter. 3.96 ERA in Double-A this year, 85 hits in 84 innings, 90 Ks, 20 walks. So another good, solid development guy. And honestly, for a guy like Winker, who at this point in his career is a DH, you're never going to get a huge return for that. So, pretty good deal, I think, both ways.
Yeah, I mean, Winker's not going to be the player that he was back when he was with the Reds.
No.
So this to me isn't that huge of a deal. The Mets are banking on him finding some kind of resurgence, and it's the Mets, so I don't know that we'll see that.
I mean, when do we ever see that with the Mets? Not often.
Exactly.
What a pity. What a pity. All right, then we have the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. The Red Sox got catcher Danny Jansen. The Blue Jays got infielder Edison Paulino, who is ESPN's Red Sox number 31 prospect, infielder Cutter Coffey, and right-handed pitcher Gilberto Batista. I feel like I saw Cutter Coffey play when I was at a Senators game when they were playing the Sea Dogs one time, but I might be thinking of someone else.
I'm just wondering, like, where do the Red Sox keep finding these players named Cutter?
I don't know, man. It's
Cutter Crawford, Cutter Coffey. Like,
I think if you look at any 10-year period in baseball history, the Red Sox are probably leading that somehow or another. It's certainly a question to be asked. I don't really get this. Jansen doesn't bring well. So I'm going to preface this by saying the Red Sox catchers all suck and they couldn't really get any worse. But Jansen really doesn't bring that much more to the table. He's got a decent power swing, which in Fenway will serve him well. But he really doesn't bring a whole lot else. He's not a great thrower defensively. It's a good return for the Blue Jays, though.
You get one of their top-ish prospects, so I mean,
yeah,
it's a pretty basic one here.
Yeah, for a backup catcher / starting DH, the fact that they could get a number 31 prospect, good for the Blue Jays. All right, then the Mets, of course, could never be done with one trade because why would they? So you have the Mets picking up Ryan Stanek from the Mariners. They gave up Ryland Thomas, and then Ryan Stanek turned around and gave up 3 runs on 2 home runs to the Atlanta Braves right after the trade. Well done, Braves. At what point are the Mariners going to get rid of Jerry DiPoto when he is just firing off every trade he can from the hip without getting a great return back? Ryland Thomas? Really? For Ryan Stanek, who's been one of your better bullpen arms? I don't like this deal for the Mariners one bit.
Well, they keep trading away their back-end bullpen pieces or their good bullpen pieces. I don't understand it either. The Mariners, if anything, should really be pushing to buy. I mean, they're right in the middle of a division race. I don't know. I don't understand some of the deals that they've been making over the last couple of years.
No, DiPoto's like, oh, I can make a trade. Let's make a trade. Let's make a trade. He's like a little kid hopped up on candy in the middle of a freaking candy store, and it's like he doesn't care about. It feels like he doesn't care about the return. Sometimes he just wants to make a deal. Like I really wish I would have thought to Jason ask you to have Dave join us or at least give us some thoughts so far, because is it as perplexing to Mariners fans as it is to the rest of us, or like is there some sort of a plan in the back of his head that's somehow going to go somewhere? Because the Mariners have developed pitching very well over the last few years, better than almost anybody, I would say. A ton of their staff is homegrown talent or guys that they brought in these trades that they finished the development and have made the major league level. But now they're going to give it away, not get much in return, and weaken what is clearly the strength of their team, which is their pitching. I just don't get this one.
Yeah, the Mariners are confusing. It's like they don't know if they're buyers or sellers anymore, and they just kind of, like you said, make deals to make deals. And I mean, last year they got rid of their closer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they gave him up, and then they were within a couple of games of making the playoffs, and it was like, what the heck are we doing here? Like, make up your mind.
Has Dipoto legitimately won any of the trades he's made over the last 2-3 years? I can't think of any of them. Even as like I'm even thinking even back into this offseason, I don't think he won any of those trades.
I mean, getting Castillo from the Reds panned out pretty well for them. I mean,
yeah, let's give him that one. But other than that,
can't argue with that one. I mean, that one worked out really nice.
Yeah, and again, let's also look at their ballpark. Their ballpark is a pitcher's dream. It is so hard to hit home run. Remember when Seattle had the All-Star game a couple years ago? That was a boring home run derby because nobody could get a freaking pitch out. Almost like this year. It was. I just don't get it. I really don't. And that's not the only confusing trade we're going to talk about tonight with the Mariners. Let's move on to the next one. The Mariners got Yimi Garcia from the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays got outfielder Jonathan Klaas, who is the Mariners' number 9 prospect per ESPN, catcher Jacob Sharp. Once again, is Yimi Garcia, is he worth your number 9 prospect? Yimi Garcia is a good pitcher, and after getting rid of Ryan Stanek, you had to get another guy in there. But maybe if you're willing to give up a number 9, don't get rid of Stanek in the first place and just build the most unhittable pitching rotation and bullpen you can, because your team can't hit for shit. It just doesn't make any sense.
Look, I mean, the one thing I will say about prospect rankings is that, yeah, they're great, but we just don't know how it's going to translate. So, we get hung up on a lot of it, I think, and for good reason. I mean, like PCA was, is lightning in a bottle, and he's been fantastic when he's been up. But, not every one of those guys is going to pan out. So.
And that's fair. It's like Jason said earlier with the Phillies. Now's the time to send the prospects away because they are prospects and you're in win now mode. Mm-hmm. And right. I get that. And again, I agree absolutely with the Phillies' position here. The Mariners and what they're doing, it doesn't make any sense. It's like somebody's throwing 5 darts at a dartboard. Okay, trade him, keep him, trade for him. It doesn't make sense. All right, and then moving on, O's and Rays. The Orioles got Zach Eflin. The Rays got outfielder Matthew Etzel. Orioles number 11 per ESPN. Right-hander Jackson Baumeister. O's number 18 per ESPN. And outfielder Matt Horvath. The O's 25 per ESPN. This was a great deal, I think, for the Rays, getting rid of Eflin's contract. Because let's face it, when the Rays are selling, they want to get rid of all those high-dollar contracts. And if I remember right, he's a free agent after this year. He only has 1 more year left on his deal. So definitely a good move for the Rays to get rid of him. And they got 3 top 25s out of the Orioles. And prospect ranking might not always matter, but when it's the Orioles and their deep farm system, if I can get one of those top guys, I'm pretty happy. And if I can get 3 of those top guys, I'm really happy. Especially the way Baltimore's been developing and finishing development of guys. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I have 2 things here. I'll talk about this one, and then we can circle back to the Mariners, because I did reach out to Dave while we were talking, and I got a couple thoughts from him. Mm-hmm. But for this one, talking to some Oriole fans, they don't mind this trade. The Orioles' rotation has been absolutely obliterated by Tommy John injuries. Yeah. The back half of their rotation is not going to be successful is not going to be what they need for a deep postseason run. So Eflin does have postseason experience. He has been doing better now that he's been healthy. And he actually pitched well and got a win today, I believe, in his first start with the Orioles. And looking at the prospects, out of these three, there was basically only one name that a lot of the Orioles fans I talked to actually recognized, and that was Ballmeister. So the Orioles are keeping their bigger prospects. So, yeah, I think this one's fine for both teams, really.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in his career, Eflin's a 3-4 guy, but yeah, with the injuries to the staff, you're right. It's definitely a big pickup because behind Corbin Burns, it's getting a little scary back there. You want to circle back to Dave's thoughts?
Yeah, because I know we have another Mariners trade coming up here. But basically, I reached out to him saying, thoughts on the Mariners trades the last few days. And his response, something is off making that many moves. We haven't given up a dang thing prospect-wise, though. And it seems like that they are trying to do something. He's just not sure what. The staff is there, but the offense is not. Mm-hmm. So it almost seems, I think his thought process here is they're making a lot of moves. Are they trying to build up and gather things to make a big splash by the deadline?
Certainly a possibility. The way Jerry Dipoto trades, it's not outside of the. I would not be shocked if between now and 6 p.m. tomorrow he makes at least 3 more trades. Not even slightly. I wouldn't even be surprised if one of them was a 3 or 4 or 5 team variety, just because why not? Speaking of Mariners trades, you alluded to, Jason. The Mariners got Randy Arozarena from the Rays. The Rays got back outfielder Aiden Smith, right-hander Brody Hopkins, and a player to be named later. Arozarena is a shell of himself. He's not what he was, although after his horrendous start, he's hitting quite a bit better. The first month and a half was awful, but he's closer to normal now. This trade I actually think was a great trade both ways. You know, no high-level prospects back for a guy that's not hitting primetime Arozarena anymore. So this trade I actually thought made the most sense of all the trades the Mariners have made so far.
Yeah, I agree. They're hoping to get just some semblance of the old Randy Arozarena, and they didn't give up much of anything for him. So,
yeah. One thing too that I'd like to say about the Mariners, I think they need to stop trying to bring in power bats everywhere they can. I think they need to look for the Tony Gwynn architect type player, a guy that can slap the ball all over the field and drive it into the gaps. Stop trying to get power guys because it's just not the stadium for that. But if you've got a bunch of high OPS guys or high OBP guys, I think they could absolutely fix that offense up and get it going. A little more speed wouldn't hurt them either. All right, you have Diamondbacks, Marlins. The Diamondbacks picked up left-hander A.J. Puck. The Marlins got infielder Davison De Los Santos, outfielder Andrew Pintar. Not a bad return, actually, for Puck. With the Marlins pretty much going into selling mode, Puck was one of the better arms out there. And honestly, it could have been worse. De Los Santos so far across 2 levels, 325, 376, 635 with 28 homers. That's over 87 games. So honestly, not a bad deal. Honestly, I'm pretty happy. Pintar's kind of a flyer, good speed guy, but it looks like the bat's not great. So we'll see how far they can get out of him. We knew the Marlins were going to be sellers. This will probably be the first of several. The closer, that's going to be the big question, but we'll get to that a little later. Any other thoughts on that trade?
No, I mean, I think if they can get, some of Puck's better, performances that you haven't seen the last year or so, then I think it could work out well for Arizona.
I think the main issue for Puck was the fact that he was on the Marlins. So,
probably.
Something that is never good for most players. Let's be realistic here. I don't know many players who do well with that. And let's remember the Diamondbacks. They're still in the wild card race. They're not even really out of the division race, considering the Dodgers have not played well coming out of the break. I mean, they're only 7.5 back. It's not an impossibility to say that they have a shot at least at making a run. So, yeah, I'm okay with that deal. I'd also be okay if the Dodgers went in as a wild card and still got knocked out in the first round. Be an expensive ass wild card team. All right, Cubbies Blue Jays. You've got the Cubs picking up relief pitcher Nate Pearson. Blue Jays got outfielder Yohendrick Pinango. Joe, I know nothing about Yohendrick Pinango. Was he anything to be?
I don't know anything about him.
Okay.
So I guess that explains that. But I know
Pearson's
that
a good one for you.
Yeah, I know Pearson has been has had a bit of a down year. I think it looks like, but he went a 1-2-3 inning tonight. So, I mean that's a positive first step. So, we'll see what he can do. He's got a lot of high velo, kind of like basically replacing Hunter Biggie, who they traded to Tampa Bay. So I mean, could be interesting. We'll see.
All right. Mariners Blue Jays. Mariners got DH first baseman Justin Turner. Blue Jays got outfielder RJ Schreck. Schreck, I'm guessing that's how you say it. Turner at this point, the power is basically gone. He's a slap contact guy, but again, this is the kind of guy that is going to do well in that ballpark, I think. He's not a super speedy guy anymore, so, a lot of those would be long singles or doubles. But this deal I like for the Mariners. Let's be real, there's nowhere in that lineup that they couldn't improve the bats, so I like that one. And then Reds Mariners. Reds got first baseman Ty France. Mariners got catcher Andrew Salcedo. Do you think Ty France is going to turn back around and be more than he was with the Mariners for the Reds? I'm not really seeing it, although he's definitely moving to a better ballpark to hit it in Cincinnati.
I think that's exactly. I think he's one that would just benefit from a change of scenery. Yeah. You see that a lot of times with some players where they struggle with one team. They need to get that change of scenery just to kind of get out of their own heads. And then, hopefully he has a little bit of a resurgence for the Reds there.
Hey, let's remember, not everybody can say, I fucking hate this place and then turn into an all-star. It's only special guys that can do that.
Absolutely.
And then we'll go into the category I call either head scratchers or prospect swaps, or maybe we just all think these guys need a new change of scenery. First was Phillies and Orioles. Phillies getting outfielder Austin Hayes. Orioles getting Sir Anthony Dominguez and Christian Pache. Pache essentially becomes what Hayes was for the Orioles this year, their backup outfielder. Sir Anthony, when he's on, and when he's off, he gives up home runs. So probably a guy that's, again, change of scenery. And same thing with Austin Hayes. The Orioles are so deep at outfielder right now that Austin Hayes, crazy as it might sound, because he was an outfielder, he was an all-star just last year, if I remember right, and has plummeted in their depth chart because of how deep it is. So I like the deal, honestly, for both sides, but yeah, it really is kind of a who knows what anybody's getting out of it. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, so I like this deal. It's a good deal for both teams, actually. Basically, for the Phillies, they needed something in the outfield. Now, Thompson has come out and said that he plans on Hayes kind of being their regular left fielder. I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, he did have a hit off of a right-handed pitcher, his first at bat.
That's surprising. Good for him.
But he has. I mean, he was an all-star last year. He was just stuck in a logjam of an outfield in Baltimore. So I'm thinking with regular playing time, he can get back to his all-star caliber play. The dude hits almost 330 off of left-handers. So he would, ideally for me, he would be the big platoon bat for Marsh and Rojas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I think I would like to see happen is I don't want to go into the postseason with an outfield of Hayes, Marsh / Rojas, and Castellanos. I want another big bat in center field. Whether it's Bellinger, Robert, whoever. They need something else out there in order to really make me feel good about that. Now for the Orioles, Sir Anthony, he was good, but he has not been the same since his injury and his surgery last year. And he's one that I think change of scenery will do good. Pache has been absolute garbage, so I am just glad that they opened up a roster spot. Actually, they were able to use that roster spot to get Estevez. So, yeah, I hope that the Phils aren't done, but the moves that they've made so far, I've been really okay with. And this one, I don't know that I would say it as a head scratcher. It was maybe more of a surprise because Hayes was not an outfielder that was on my radar as far as the Phils trying to go get. But I like this deal for both teams.
Yeah, you answered two questions I had for you. Number one, are you assuming Dealing Dave's still going to try and get a big outfielder, which I think he has to. That's not the kind of outfield that I would want to run in the postseason. Just so you know, Sir Anthony has already had 2 appearances, 2 innings, gave up 2 hits, but struck out 2 and didn't give up a run yet. So far, good trade both ways. And Jason, I could have told you Pache's bat was crap.
I mean, we all knew it was, and I think I loved having his defense.
Yeah,
but
great glove.
But Rojas easily surpassed him with the glove and with the bat, to the point, and the speed. But Pache, he showed flashes of what he could do last year, and I think the hope was that working with Kevin Long, the hitting coach, more would translate into more success. And he, if anything, he regressed this year. So I'm not sad to see him go.
I got to tell you, man, Pache was the first guy I was hoping would be included in the Olsen trade because I wanted him gone. I thought he was a liability because of his bat. We saw Oakland DFA him pretty damn quick. And you got some decent use out of him last year, but this has just been ongoing kind of art for his whole career so far. He'll have brief flashes, and then that's about it. And he just regresses way back down with his bat. And the crazy thing with Pache is he's got great speed in the field. He's not great on the base paths. Mm-mm. He's not a good base stealer despite his speed. So he really is kind of, at this point in his career, he really is a platoon, give a guy a day off guy. So, he's basically filling the role Hayes had, just probably not as capably with the bat. I really, and I hope they don't because it's going to screw us, but I really do think the Phillies need to go out and get a big outfield bat. That way they can have, you can use Marsh, Rojas, Hayes, platoon, big bat, and then Castellanos.
Yep.
It would be better.
Mm-hmm. And again, as we mentioned, the time is now for this team. You need to be going all in.
Yeah. No reason at all to be playing conservative baseball at this point. All right, Rangers Tigers. The Rangers picked up catcher Carson Kelly. The Tigers got catcher Liam Hicks, right-hander Tyler Owens, both AA prospects. What are the Rangers doing? The Rangers are sitting at 51 and 55, 4.5 back in the division because the top 2 are weak, but I have a feeling Houston's going to do what they normally do and go on a late August, September run. and they're 6 back in the wild card. I don't see them making ground in the wild card. I'm not sure the Rangers should really be bringing guys in at this point. And I know two AA prospects, they're AA prospects. They might never pan out to anything. They might pan out to something. I don't get what the Rangers are doing here. It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I guess to me, the way that division has played out this year so far, where Seattle had this nice lead and then they blew it in the better part of almost a month. I mean, anything can happen in the AL West, I think. So, I mean, that's probably their calculus there. And all they have to do is get in, which is what they did last year. So, I mean, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that they get there and at least get into the playoffs. So I think that's, there's a difference between 2.5 or so out in the American League and 3.5 out and no tiebreakers in the National League, a la the Cubs a week ago. So
yeah, that's fair. I don't know. For a team with a run differential sitting at 0, I'm not seeing it. They're 27-34 against teams over 500, and they're 22-32 on the road, whereas they were the road warriors last year. I don't see it.
I'm not saying I see it. I'm just thinking about why they might be thinking about making moves and trying to get pieces and all that.
Yeah, that's fair. To prospect swap, the Red Sox got Quinn Priester, the Pirates got Nick York. Nothing really big to mention there. That was a relatively minor deal. Astros picking up Kikuchi. Has the Astros have what the Astros given up on that? Has that been released yet?
It was, but I don't remember the name. It's just a relief pitcher, I think.
Okay.
Hold on. I'll see if I can find it while you talk. But
all right. And then Lane Thomas to the Guardians. The Nationals got back Jose Tena, Rafael Ramirez, and Alex Clemmie. That to me feels like a decent haul for Thomas. We all figured Thomas would be on the move. Jason, what are you feeling about that one?
I'm surprised, but not. I think Thomas was kind of the main person that the Nats could actually give up, because a lot of their other guys are younger guys that they probably want to build around for the future. So I think if they were going to sell anybody, it would absolutely have to have been Lane Thomas.
I will say this: Clemmie has really, really high ceiling. Single A right now, and he's been on an innings limit. He only just turned 19. He's struck out 97 batters so far, and he's only walked 47. Power stuff, upper 90s fastball, a plus curveball. I don't know if he's going to have the makeup for a starter long term. He might be a reliever, but definitely a very, very high ceiling guy there. Honestly, though, it's largely a pretty good deal, I think, both ways. Lane Thomas, I would think, is going to be the right fielder for the Guardians. His defense isn't great, but his numbers aren't bad. 253, 31, 331, 407, 28 homers, 36 doubles. April was god-awful, but his numbers have been way up since then. Good plate discipline, 91, 91st percentile chase rate. It's a good deal, I think, both ways, honestly.
The three guys in the Kikuchi deal that went to Toronto,
okay.
Joey Loperfido, Will Wagner, and Jake Bloss.
Okay.
Bloss is a relief pitcher. The other two guys I don't know.
Okay. All right. So we'll see about that. It looks like at the moment it's probably going to be an Astros win on that trade so far.
And that was with the Mariners, right?
No, Blue Jays.
Blue Jays.
Blue Jays. Okay.
So, I mean, it looks like Astros fans in general aren't too thrilled about losing Bloss, but we'll see how they feel about the rest of it as it shakes out. So
Yeah, I mean, Kikuchi's a mid-level rotation guy. He's not
right.
an ace level guy by any stretch of the
So
imagination.
Bloss is a pitcher. Loperfido is a first base outfielder, and Will Wagner is the son of Billy Wagner.
All right. I mean, that right there.
And he's an infielder. So
I mean, wasn't Wagner a fielder originally before he got hurt and switched arms and then discovered he could throw gas from the other arm?
I don't know. You'd know that better than I would. So
I feel like I remember reading that somewhere. Anyway, so all right. So I think did I miss anything? I think that's pretty much everything that's come down.
There's been a Pirates trade since the show started, but I'm missing the details on that. It's just two pitchers basically.
Okay. All righty. All right. So some of the bigger name guys that have not moved yet. We talked about Crochet earlier about how he's kind of dooming his chances of going anywhere. Blake Snell started really slow, as he typically does. He's not usually a first half guy. He's pitched quite a bit better after the rough month and a half, 2 months. Shortened spring training clearly did not help him. Do you see the Giants dealing Snell?
I guess I could see it. I just don't know what the benefit is. I'm not going to take 3 starts and trade for a guy who doesn't care enough to make it to spring training. I know that partly is on his agent, but I'm not going to trade away capital for a guy who may be good, but is likely not to be.
And still walks a shitload of guys. His walk rate ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would be doing a whole lot of selling if I were the Giants because they have a fairly decent foundation that I think they can just keep building around with Snell. So I don't know that I see Snell going anywhere.
How about Flaherty from the Tigers? I think Flaherty is probably likely to move. He's not an ace.
Flaherty's going somewhere.
He got scratched from his start tonight. So
yeah, he's gone.
so I this afternoon they announced that he was scratched from his start. So I think he's absolutely going somewhere.
Yep, we all know what that means. You're about to head for better grounds, buddy. Luis Robert of the White Sox. I feel like I've heard a couple teams tied into Roberts. Do you think he's going to go anywhere?
I don't know. I truly don't. I mean, I could see him going somewhere, but I mean, between him and Eloy, they're about as healthy as me on a weekend. So, or my liver in my 20s. Like they're about as healthy as my liver in my 20s. Like this is ridiculous. I hope that for the sake of Luis Robert, he gets a change of scenery and is able to rebound. But I'm just not sure he's done enough to earn a trade, I guess.
For speaking as somebody who's kind of actually hoping that their team trades for Robert, for me it would depend on the price. Because the good thing is he is under control through 2027, I believe it is. So that's going to drive the price up. But going from a place like I'm just going to call it Comiskey. It's guaranteed rate field, but it's Comiskey.
It's
going from a place like that to a better ballpark in Citizens Bank Park, a more hitter-friendly ballpark where he doesn't have to try as hard to really drive the ball and get RBIs and all that fun stuff. I would not. I am kind of hoping that Dombrowski has been saving his chips to go for either Robert or potentially, Flaherty or Skubal, depending on what the Tigers are wanting to do. But Robert is one that's been on my list for at least like the last month. as a potential trade candidate. Hell, I would even be interested in the potential for some kind of massive blockbuster deal that gets Crochet and Robert coming over to Philly.
Painter and Abel are gone at that point.
Yeah,
and you know what, Painter's working his way back from Tommy John. Painter hasn't been healthy for a while, so again, it's prospects. Who knows what they're going to do in the future? Abel, while he dominated at single A and double A, has struggled in triple A. So will his stuff translate to major league level? We don't know. But I think a lot of it would depend on the price. While I'm okay giving up Abel and or Painter, the two that are untouchable to me would be Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller. They can give up one of those, but absolutely not both. Now, if they can get Robert, since they would have control through 2027, I think Justin Crawford would go in that deal because he would be an outfielder. So, yeah, I'm kind of holding out hope. I know Dombrowski has said that he's done with the outfield. I don't know that I believe that, especially seeing what's going on.
He's not done with the outfield, though. He's saying that for the purpose of trying to drive prices down. He's not done with the outfield.
Yeah, I really don't know that Dombrowski is done in general with trying to fix that outfield, because there has to be more yet.
Yeah. I'm just looking over. I'm just looking over your top 30 list here. A lot of your guys are not this year close anyway. Probably McGarry is the closest one. So yeah, it's probably going to take at least one of your big arms, and probably Miller or Crawford if you really want that kind of a blockbuster. It's going to be one of those kind of deals.
As I've said tonight, hey, you got to be all in right now with this window. Make it happen, Deal and Dave.
Joe, what do you think about Tyone? Have you heard anything? Are the Cubs going to keep him? What the hell are the Cubs doing?
I'm expecting them to trade him, but he started tonight, so I have no idea what to make of that. So
that sucks.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. So I was expecting him to move. I'm hoping he's the only starting pitcher that moves, because I don't want them to get rid of Mr. Steele by any means. But I would be surprised.
Jason, that's the big time blockbuster you want to try and get Justin Steele.
If the Phillies, if they trade Justin Steele, I might be a fan of that team like instantaneously and just say screw it, like forget it.
Oh man!
Oh my god!
Wow. Dude, this just dropped on ESPN earlier. Speaking of Crochet, White Sox GM expressed disappointment in his tactics in letting it be known how the pitcher wants to be used for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was really stupid the way that Crochet has handled himself with this.
Quote, the communication has been very strong between Garrett and I and his agency. I was a little surprised and taken aback by how they went about it, considering I had a conversation with his agent the night before. That's not exactly the tactic I would have taken being a former player, just because the dialogue has been so honest and real and careful and mindful of his career. I was a little surprised by it. I was.
Yeah, there were a couple of other demands he made besides the extension, and one of those was that he would not go to the bullpen. Which, again, bold strategy, because you don't have a lot of say in what a team wants to do with you, man.
Yeah, dude, you're not even in arbitration years. Your arbitration doesn't start till next year. That is the first point in which you really have any say in anything.
Who do you think you are, David Robertson? I mean, come on now.
Yeah, basically at this point.
A trade that just dropped. I don't know the return yet, but the Brewers have acquired Frankie Montas from the Reds.
Another interdivision trade.
That's a really big get for the Brewers for their rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see the return yet, but that was Jeff Passan was on that one.
Well, if Passan said it, I'm believing it because Passan doesn't miss a whole lot of those. Interesting. And then Brent Rooker. The problem is Rooker's pretty much stuck in a DH role. It's like Winker. You're only going to get so much for him. He's having a great season, but I know he's a DH outfielder, but he's kind of like Schwarber in the outfielder. Last resort. You don't want him out there. He's not good. But the A's should be selling. But at the same point, I could also see them saying Rooker's a guy we can build around with our young core. And as you know, Jason, I know you weren't on last week, but Joe and I were talking about surprises from the first half, and we're surprised. We're not surprised at where Oakland is right now, but we're surprised at how they started and how the potential for that young core they're building is definitely there. Like they're still pre-window, but the window is not as far into the future as we thought in the preseason. So I don't know if they actually trade him.
Yeah, I don't know that they will. And I mean, I got to see Rooker in person, like the series before the All-Star break, and he was just fantastic that series and the game that we were at. Like pretty much every time he would step up to the plate, he would do something good, and I'd be in their sense like, Dombrowski, don't let him see this be on the opposite side from you tomorrow, and yeah, I think the A's have something with him.
Yeah, I think the A's are going to have a pretty high asking price if they move him. I'm not sure I see him going anywhere. And he is not the kind of guy you guys want. He's not the big outfield bat you need because he can't play in the outfield.
Right.
You
don't need two Schwarbers on one team.
The trade that the Pirates pulled off during the show tonight, they pulled off a trade with the Rockies. They acquired Jalen Beeks, a left-handed pitcher, in exchange for Louis Peralta, who is the brother of Freddie Peralta, who pitches for the Brewers. So just catching you up on that.
Yeah, Beeks hasn't been great this year out of the pen. 6-4, 4.74 ERA. He does have 9 saves, but 1.358 WHIP, only 38 strikeouts and 49 and a third. I don't really think he's going to be a major difference maker in a bullpen. Although that said, he only has 18 walks on the year. So, although when you stretch it to walks per 9, that is 3.3. That's a little bit high for a bullpen guy. Yeah, he's a middle innings guy at best, I would think. Angels still have Tyler Anderson that they're holding on to. I could see, given the fact that there's not a ton of good starting pitching available, I could definitely see the Angels listening to offers for Anderson. He's had a solid year. The record's not great because he's playing for the Angels, 8-9, but he's got a 2.96 ERA over 21 starts, 99 strikeouts and 130 and 2/3. He's not a strikeout guy, never has been, but he's holding a 1.14 WHIP. He's showing good control this year. He's letting his fielders behind him do their job. I think Anderson is. I think if he's dealt, he should get the Angels a modest haul back, I would think. A guy like that who can show control and limit the damage from walks and eat innings at the same time, that's not a bad one in my mind anyway. He is getting close to he's only had 3 seasons over 165 innings, so I don't know how much you're going to get down the stretch. He kind of feels like a guy who could fade down the way, but definitely somebody to consider to bring in, especially because he's got one more year of team control at only $13 million. It's not bad for a lower mid-level guy in the rotation. All right. Any other trades come rolling through that we missed?
No, nothing yet.
Appreciate the catch-up, Joe.
Sure.
Do you guys have anybody else that you think decent likelihood to be traded? The player pool's not deep because there's a lot of teams that are on the bubble that don't know which way to go.
Yeah, I think this is the one thing with adding that third wild card that is kind of I feel like it's had a similar effect on MLB as the 7th playoff team has had in the NFL, where it kind of dilutes the competition a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an amazing, week, or, you could have an amazing month and be back in it, or be within a few games. And, so I think that certainly has hurt some of the player pool, I would say. Teams just not really sure what they want to do.
To put what you're saying into perspective, Joe, let's say the cutoff is, since we're not quite in August yet, let's say the cutoff is if you're below 7 games out, you're done. So in the National League, that's only 2 teams eliminated, the Marlins and the Rockies, because the Nationals are still at 6.5 out. In the American League, that would eliminate the Blue Jays, the Angels, the Athletics, and the White Sox.
Yeah.
So you nailed it, Joe. It dilutes the talent going into the playoffs for one thing, but it also really restrains the player pool available.
The other thing I would say too is, and I'm seeing this particularly firsthand, obviously, is even if you're only 5 back, like the Cubs were going into tonight, I think they're going to be 5.5 or 6 or whatever now. But a week ago they were 3.5 back, and I told you guys, I said it feels like they're 10 back because they don't have a tiebreaker with anybody that's ahead of them. And if there's 6 teams ahead of you on top of the top 3 in the wild card, then you're basically screwed.
It's true. Yeah,
so,
it's true.
I mean, there's a lot of teams who may be closer than 6 games back or 5 games back, and may have a shot. But at this point, you're getting to the point where you're not going to be able to make up any of that ground, really, unless you beat that team earlier in the year and you don't play them anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, you make good points. Jason, any other thoughts from you?
No, I'm just really interested to see what happens tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I feel like my phone's not going to stop buzzing as deals come through, as it always does on DDAB.
The return on the Cincinnati-Milwaukee trade, Cincinnati is getting Joey Wiemer and Jacob Junis in that trade. But nothing else new yet, as far as I can see. So
is that here? Hold on, let me pull up.
Wiemer is up at the majors, I believe. I don't know about the other guy, but some interesting nuggets for you on some of these guys that have been traded. Tommy Pham has been traded 5 times in his career, 4 of those at the deadline. Like, including now each of the last 3 deadlines. And Rosario, who the Dodgers traded for earlier, it's the 2nd deadline in a row that they've traded for Ahmed Rosario.
If at first it doesn't succeed, try again.
And an interesting Cubs nugget on this is that the last 2 years, Jed has traded for players who were previously in the Cubs organization that were traded away. Candelario being the one last year, and Paredes being the one this year.
Interesting.
Guys that started in the Cubs organization, got traded away, and then came back.
Who did they trade Paredes away for?
I'll have to look that up. They mentioned it on one of the Cubs podcasts I listened to, but I can't remember.
And who did Milwaukee give up? Because the one guy's not even listed as a prospect anymore.
Joey Wiemer, who is, I think, up at the major league club.
Yeah, he's not a prospect rank anymore. What was the other guy?
Well, now I don't have it. Let me find it. But
so, did you say Wilkin? Maybe.
No, Junis. Junis is the other one.
Yeah, Junis isn't even in the top 30. So Milwaukee didn't give up an MLB top 30.
Right. There's some interesting nuggets that have happened so far. I'm interested to see what else shakes out here in the next,
15 hours.
20 hours. Be really interesting to see what happens there.
All right. The fantasy update. I was busy last week and paid no attention to my team and got my ass handed to me accordingly. Ron took me down 19-6. Todd beat Tim 14-11, and Jason, you beat Joe 16-11 in the ongoing Jason Joe rivalry. Standings after week 14, Jason jumped up to the top spot. Tim is now 3.5 back. I'm 4.5 back. Joe is 8.5 back. Joe, you better watch behind you. You only got a half game of being knocked out of the playoffs. And Ronnie, after whooping me, is up to 31.5 games out and is now having a bit of a premature hope that there is a slim possibility he might be able to make a run. Although he also at the same time wants that number 1 pick next year. So we'll see which way Ronnie goes from here. Major injuries over the past week. Reynaldo Lopez left his start early this weekend, unspecified forearm injury. The MRI today showed no structural damage. Atlanta plans to keep him day to day. They don't think he's going to need an IL stint. They're probably just going to give him extra days off between starts. And then we'll call this the second boneheaded injury of the year. Oakland's all-universe fireballing closer decided to get pissed off, punch something he shouldn't, and has some fractures in his hands. Did Oakland already put him on the 15, or are they hoping he's going to be day to day as well? And also, what is it with pitchers not realizing that they should just stop punching hard inanimate objects?
Well, this was like a massage table or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so it even had a soft top. Jesus.
Right. But I mean, look, going back to fantasy, I think, it's been an up and down couple of weeks here. I continue to make more moves than just about anybody, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But, it looked like, Jason and I were going to be pretty much a dead heat going into the weekend, and then it was kind of like, what the heck is going on here? But Jason, your thoughts on our fantasy matchup?
Yeah, I mean, for as badly as you kept kicking my ass last year, I feel like the tables have turned this year.
Until the playoffs, hopefully.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's really interesting to see just like the difference week in and week out everything makes. Like, you and I started really close, Joe, and then I jumped out pretty far ahead mid to late week, and then you brought it back in yesterday. So I'm just really interesting to see what happens with all this. And then there is one other big injury news that you missed, Andrew. It does affect my team. Ranger Suarez going down on the 15-day injured list with lower back soreness.
Thank you. I didn't go back far enough in the group chat to catch that. Good catch.
So that is a significant blow, not just to my fantasy team, but to the Phillies rotation, who had to call up Colby Allard. And
good luck with that.
He did okay-ish. Like, he went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs on a home run, which ended up being kind of a big difference maker. But that's another reason why I think you're going to see Dombrowski potentially try and go for somebody like, maybe not necessarily Crochet, but potentially like Jack Flaherty, some back of the end rotation starter.
Yeah, mid-level or 3-4 guy. Yeah,
yep.
That would make sense.
The other potential injury, I don't know what the status is yet, but James McCann today for the Orioles taking that fastball off the face.
Dude, I saw that replay. Oh,
he caught the entire game,
and I think the only
8th inning couldn't see anything out of that eye.
The only reason he stayed in that game was because they have a double header, and he basically was like, I'm just going to take this for the team because we don't want Adley catching 2 games today. That dude is just...
That's more than just taking one for the team, man.
Like, I know talking to Matt Mowell and our buddy Jim today, like, they were both like, Give that man a key. Make him mayor as of tonight. Like, just the determination, the guts, that's a legendary thing to do.
It really is. All right, so we'll move it on to fantasy. I have a trivia question for both of you guys. I've been waiting until I was hoping Ron would be back on tonight, but that's okay. I at least wanted Jason to be back on because he loves his baseball trivia. All right, the question is, what are the 5 most recent team name changes? First one should be really easy because it's pretty new.
Guardians.
Yeah. It was 2022.
In the majors only.
The Rays.
Majors only, and it's not. And it's. I will preface this by saying it's name changes could be either the city change or the mascot name change. The Rays were 3. That was back in 2008.
The Marlins going from Florida to Miami.
Correct. That was number 2 at 2012.
How many were we doing? 5?
Top 5. So you've gotten 1, 2, 3 from 22, 12, and 2008.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know if this counts, but the Expos becoming the Nats.
Yep, that's number 4, 2005.
And then, didn't somebody else move? Well, we can't count the A's yet.
No, the A's aren't listed because it hasn't.
Oh, the Angels.
There you go.
Well, going from LA and California to Los Angeles of Anaheim.
Yeah, and from the Anaheim Angels to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Dumbest name ever. They made a big fuss about this and then didn't even acknowledge the whole LA thing anywhere in their uniforms until the City Connects last year. That was the first time they had ever had a uniform that had anything mentioning Los Angeles. So stupid. And I love the fact that to this day, when the Dodgers play the Angels, they will not acknowledge the Los Angeles portion of the Angels name on the tickets. It says the Anaheim Angels. Not petty at all. Go Dodgers on that one.
I mean, Joe, the whole LA thing is just dumb because you were like the Angels of Anaheim. Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah. The Angels.
The Angels of Anaheim.
Joe, I just gotta say, good teamwork there. We were able to get that without actually just like doing a straight up guess that was wrong. We were able to actually talk our way through that one pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well done, you guys.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, and again, I'm glad I saved it so you guys could both go off each other with that. 3 milestones tonight. Number 1, the Marlins. Xavier Edwards became the second Marlins player ever to hit for a cycle. So the Marlins had to wait 30 years to have a hit for cycle until last year when Arias did it. And was that the game you were at, Jason? Yep.
He was at that game.
Didn't realize it happened until it happened.
And so Xavier Edwards, not only did he become the second Marlins ever to hit for a cycle, he also did it by hitting his first career home run. So that's pretty cool. Vlad Jr., he hit his career number 150, and he is the youngest Blue Jays player to ever hit 150 home runs. And also just tonight, Paul Skeens, in only his 13th start, hit his 100th strikeout. If that's not road to the show on easy mode, I don't know what is.
Yeah, just ridiculous.
Although I still disagree with him being named starter of the All-Star game, but that doesn't matter. We're in the past. Hot list is going to take another week off. Our teams all kind of had a down week, and we were all pretty focused on the trade deadline, so we will ignore the hot list. That will be back next week as we wrap up the trade deadline and start kind of giving teams grades. Maybe we'll see if we can sneak either Jim and or Dave and, anybody else who might want to sneak on and talk about how their teams did the deadline. All right, looking at the upcoming week, Atlanta tonight is playing Milwaukee. Holmes versus Rhea. Nobody has mentioned a starter for tomorrow. Wednesday is Sale versus Peralta. Thursday through Sunday, 4 with the Marlins at home. Morton versus Rogers. Schwellenbach versus Meyer. TBD versus Tyler. TBD versus Cabrera as Atlanta's working through some injuries. Moving on to the Orioles, because it's just easier because I have it pulled up over here to go alphabetically. The Orioles are playing tonight versus Toronto. Oh, they have a doubleheader today. They won game 1 11-5. Eflin, as Jason mentioned earlier, did pick up his first win. Currently, Povich versus Francis. Tomorrow, Burns versus Bassett. Rodriguez versus Kikuchi. Kikuchi's gone. ESPN clearly has not updated this yet. Okay, Rodriguez versus TBD. I love it when that happens.
I mean, to be fair, that trade only happened like an hour and a half ago.
That's true, and ESPN probably hasn't updated the whole schedule spreadsheet since this morning. The weekend series for the Orioles, they're at Cleveland for 4. Kremer versus Lively, Suarez versus Carrasco, Eflin versus TBD, Burns versus Bibby on Sunday. That'll actually be a good matchup. I'm kind of liking that one. For the Cubbies, they already lost to Cincinnati today, 7-1. Spires got the win. Tyone got the loss. Not helping the trade prospects right there.
Thank you very much for that update, Andrew. I didn't need it, but I appreciate it.
Anytime. Steele versus Montes tomorrow. Hendricks versus Lodolo on Wednesday. And then 4 versus the Cardinals over the weekend. Beat the losers for me, please. Imananga versus Gibson, Assad versus Mikolas, Tyone versus TBD if he's still on the team, Steele versus Lynn on Sunday. God, I hate the Cardinals. I'm just going to leave it at that. And moving it on to the Phillies, wow. Am I reading that right, dude?
You're reading that right, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Phillies got shellacked by the Yankees today, 14-4. Jason, as you were giving those updates, I didn't realize it was Phillies-Yankees. So, damn, dude, I'm sorry.
I mean, it's one thing. Like that lineup was just absolutely insane tonight. And then you have Garrett Stubbs pitching in the ninth because you're so far out of it.
Don't waste an arm. Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, you're going to have games like that. It's baseball. I mean, the Red Sox had 20 dropped on them by the Rockies this past weekend, so it's going to happen.
Yep.
So Gill got the win tonight. Wheeler took the loss. Tomorrow night, the Phillies will try to bounce back. Noel versus Cole. That's a nice matchup. Are you going to that one?
No, I didn't get the Yankees this time around.
Too bad. That would have been a great one to watch.
Been a great one to sell.
That too. Wednesday, Sanchez versus Cortez, and the Phillies end with 3 at Seattle over the weekend as they start. Is that a 10-game road trip? Have fun with that.
Yeah, it's Mariners, Dodgers, D-backs.
Oh, yeah, you're going to find out a lot about the team over the series.
I've been trying to find a lot about the team over the last weekend, this next week, and it's not great so far.
I wasn't going to bring all that up, but if you want to, I mean, that's on you.
Nope.
So the Seattle probables: Phillips versus Wu, Allard versus Miller, Wheeler versus Gilbert. So that's the Phillies for the rest of the week. You guys have anything else? I mean, it's really tomorrow's going to be a wild day of just watching our phones blow up as trade after trade after trade goes down, as it always does on trade day. So even on quiet years, the phones go nuts. All right. So guys, audio recordings are available. Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast got stopped. Apple Podcast now at this point, and anywhere else that hasn't been stopped that you can find podcasts, we're up there. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Facebook page is facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. Twitter is at DDAB_podcast. All 4 of us are still active on there. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at JoltonJoe35. Ron is at Dipner Ron. We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the wonderful Baron Barbershop over in Mannheim. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good one. Let's see what everybody's teams look like next week.